Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Boolean and some of the idiosyncrasies that you might run across when you decide to use it. And I apologize in advance. Overnight I got really hoarse, sound pretty bad, but if you guys can bear through it, I'll try to do my best to make it through. And so what I want to show you here is I've got a table that I've made, okay? And so we've got clear collect, my table, and then I just have type and then an inspected, and all of these are just numerical values 0 1 0 1 0 1. So if you look at Boolean and you look at the documentation on what this is, let's bring this over here. And by the way, you can get to this documentation by clicking on doc link at the bottom, and you can see the basic usage. Okay, so basically, all it does is it converts a numerical value or an integer into a true, a false, or a blank. That's it in its nutshell. But it only can take certain things in, and it's essentially a number. Okay, so the usage is Boolean and a number, and the number is either 0 or 1. In other words, 0 is off, 1 is on. It's binary. And so, excuse me. And so you can see it can also convert text, such as true, which is not a Boolean true. Even though they both say true, the data type is completely different. So this is a string, this is a string, this is just a blank function or a null value. This one is a numerical integer of 0. We talked about that just a few moments ago. And then we've got 1, and that's a numerical value. And then here's the thing I'll throw you kind of for a loop, right? It's true. The Boolean value is true, but this isn't 0 or 1. So essentially what you got to understand here is, as long as it's a numerical value and it's not 0, it assumes that it's anything other than 0. Okay, 0 just means no, and any other number could mean essentially true. It's just not 0, and I think that's the way you probably should look at it. Just it's not 0. So if it's not explicitly false and it's a numerical value, then it's true. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So let's kind of see what this might look like here. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down. I'm going to push the my table. Come over here to this variables, look at my collections, and I have 4 rows. So if I view the table, I got items in the table, so that should be good. Let's do an insert, layout, table, my collection, edit the fields. Let's do type and then inspected. Okay, close this up. We'll move this down and around, and then let's go back over to tree view. Expand this. What I want to do is get to this column. Okay, see where this says inspected? Again, always read down here because this will give you an idea. Like if you're doing Power Apps, you need to really hone in on this bar here. This is your best friend, especially for troubleshooting and you're not understanding why something is happening. Always consider, do I have the right data type? Am I giving it what it expects? If I'm getting an error and say I think I'm passing in a string, but I find out that up here it says record, I need to go use that that shovel, right? That dot, and I need to go dig one more deeper. So I've digressed again. And so what we want to do is wrap this around a Boolean function. So inside, I can just pop this in and see now I get an explicit true or false. So let's go back to the make table and let's change this number, the last one, to 55, or whatever, right? Let's run this again and see the boat. It's not 0, it's 5566. And because it's not explicitly 0, it's assumed, hey, it's a number, so it's true. So you can think of interesting use cases and ways that you might determine whether something is either blank or if it's, let's try this here. Let's pop this in, make table. Okay, see, blank. It's not true. Blank is also assumed 0. Okay, so blank or 0 is false. Any other number, as long as it's a valid integer, if it's not 0, then it's considered true. Okay? All right, so we've kind of beat this horse to death, but I want to show you another use case. We haven't covered the value variable explicitly, right? But I've shown it to you in a handful of other use cases. I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave this on screen. I'm going to maybe make this table a little bit shorter to give me some more room. Let's move this, try to move this table up and away. Move this over here. Let's insert a text input item. Let's leave this here. Let's insert a label. Let's bring this down. Let's make the label pop a little bit. And as far as text input, let's change this to txt1 so we don't have to write as much code. And then let's do this. So we're going to do bool txt1 dot text. Okay. So I have a type error. It says text input cannot be converted to a Boolean. Okay, fair enough. And now let's go to here and let's change the default from text input to 0. Now this should say false, and it doesn't. Well, that's because it says the value 0 cannot be converted to Boolean. Okay. What did I say in the other, when I was working on this table, and I was telling you about this helper thing up here top. So if I click on here, and I click in here, I can see that this says number. And if it's a number, then why in the hell isn't this not working, right? You're starting to throw things at the wall. You're starting to curse. You're freaking out a little bit. And it's like, I don't get it. Like, what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do anything wrong. And the reason for it is you're not getting a whole lot of help here either, because IntelliSense and also this little, I don't know what the explicit name for this little bar here is at the bottom, but anyway, it's really not helping you. Well, maybe you've glanced over here to format and you're like, oh, well, shit, maybe this is why. Let's change this to number. And so you go ahead and you hit play and you say, let's do 1. And there it is again. And you see how there's a single quote around this? So that might be an indicator. So you're like, okay, well, what is this? This is a text box. Even though I'm telling it to format it as a number, it's not. So here's the question. And I don't know the answer to this. I'm presenting the question, especially if somebody from Microsoft is watching this. Maybe they could comment in the video below. But to the best of my knowledge, a text box is always text unless you change it over here to number. And if you change it to number, then my assumption is the input mask, I don't know if that's exactly the right terminology, but I'm going to call it that. An input mask doesn't accept any other characters other than numerical characters. So if I try to type in, TH, like I'm trying to type in text, it's not working. But if I hit anything on a numerical keyboard, I get it. But the data type behind the scenes, even though, as I showed before, if I click into this, and let's just go here, and I do, I don't know, like this, right? And if I get out of here, and oh, Lord have mercy. All right, and then so I'm clicking on through here. I've got this default, well, let me just put any old number up here, right? But it's, again, it still says it's a number. Anyway, long story short, here's the fix, guys. So let's go ahead and change this back out to 0. And then let's go ahead and change this. Okay, so this is the value function, okay? I'm going to do an explicit video just so that it's isolated on its own and so that it is part of the series. But I'm going to take this part out, the txt1.text. If you take text that's a number and you wrap it inside of this value function, then any text value becomes an integer value as long as it's not an illegal character like A1 or something like that. So now we have a explicit conversion of text into integer. There was nothing that said I needed to do this, but you're going to drive yourself mad. So if you're trying to run a Boolean expression, say on an input box or some other value, and you get banging your head up against the wall where it's telling you that it's not a number, or it's saying it's an illegal value, or I forget what the exact word was, just know the wrap it into value function, and life is off to the races and you're good again. So anyway, sorry about digressing so long on what should be a very simple thing, but again, I just wanted to show you the nuance, because again, I don't know if it's a bug, if it's a feature, if it's whatever it is, but just know that you're going to run into a source of frustration if you didn't know what to look for. All right, thanks. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.